You ever see a car slide into a lake in slow motion like time's just taking a coffee break to let you soak in every awkward, glorious second? Because I have, and let me tell you, it's not every morning you're standing there mug in hand watching your HOA president's shiny Toyota Land Cruiser take a majestic, absolutely doomed ride down your freshly watered lawn straight into your private lake. That sight, that's the kind of thing that sticks with you, you know what I mean? Some folks dream about winning the lottery. I just wanted my grass back. But let me back up a sec because honestly, if you'd told me a few years ago that my life in Oakwood Creek would become a battleground of passive aggression and pettiness, I'd have laughed. I moved in for the Peace Good Neighbors weekends, grilling my own little patch of green to fuss over. I'm Mark, by the way, and before all this, I was just your average aerospace engineer who liked things in their right place. A guy who got a kick out of watching the sunrise glint off his perfect lawn, the one gently sloping down to a little lake filled with turtles and lily pads, and not as of yet any vehicles. Then Brenda Higgins showed up. You know, the type always in expensive athleisure sunglasses that could double as riot shields, and her Land Cruiser polished to a mirror shine, always parked just wherever she pleased. HOA president within 6 months, like she was born to wield petty authority, and if you ever crossed her line, well, you'd know. The first time she parked on my lawn, it was just 2 tires, just for a second, dear kind of thing. Next time, a little farther in. After that, it became a routine, her SUV half on my grass whenever she visited her friend next door, her dog Fifi staring at me like I owed them rent. At first, I tried being neighborly, friendly reminders, a polite note on her windshield, even the classic awkward small talk about keeping the lawn nice. She'd smile, say something about the curb being too rough for her precious dog, and then roll right on. It didn't matter how often I asked, she just kept pushing, and every time I saw those tire tracks, I felt like I was losing a little more ground literally and figuratively. And if you've ever tried to reason with someone who thinks rules are for other people, you know how that goes. So, I did what any rational person does when their patience runs out. I documented everything, dates, photos, tire marks, even a logbook. When my polite requests didn't work, I escalated to the HOA board, figuring someone would step in. But Brenda was the board, and the official response was basically, handle it yourselves. Classic. Brenda started parking even more brazenly, sometimes leaving her Land Cruiser on my grass for hours, grinning at me like she was waiting for me to do something daring me. Really? You ever feel like you're trapped in a sitcom written by your worst enemy? That's when I started talking to my neighbor, Mr. Henderson, an old litigator who'd seen every kind of nonsense this side of a courtroom. He listened to my story, puffed on his pipe, and told me, Mark, sometimes you gotta fight fire with water, but always make sure you're holding the hose. Advice I took a little more literally than he probably meant. But we'll get there. I even sent Brenda a cease and desist letter, registered official the works. She parked farther onto my lawn the next day and waved. Yeah, that happened. I couldn't sleep that night, staring out at the lawn, furious and helpless, until it hit me. What if I used the only tool Brenda couldn't fight, physics? I'm an engineer. I know how things move, and more importantly, how they stop moving. My lawn, when it's dry, is a carpet. When it's soaked with that slope, it's an ice rink in disguise. So I adjusted my sprinkler system, staked out some hidden hoses, and started watching the weather. I waited until the forecast promised 5 dry days, no rain to tip my hand. The night before Brenda's regular morning visit, I let those sprinklers run a little longer, just on the sweet spot where she always parked. Next morning, I watched from my office phone, ready pretending to sort paperwork. Right on cue, Brenda rolls up, didn't even look, just swung the Land Cruiser up onto the grass, chattering on her phone, Fifi yapping at nothing. For a split second, I wondered if I'd miscalculated. Then the magic happened. Her front wheels slid, the SUV started drifting, and you could see the realization hit her face like she'd stepped on a banana peel in front of a crowd. She panicked, tried to brake, tried to steer, but there was no stopping it. That massive Land Cruiser did the slowest, saddest toboggan ride you've ever seen, bumping over the edge and splashing nose first into the lake water up to the headlights. She bailed out the passenger side shoes, lost yoga pants. Muddy hair and pride-soaked, she spun on me, screaming, "What did you do?" And honestly, I nearly laughed, except I was too busy looking shocked, clutching my coffee like an Oscar winner. "Brenda, you okay?" "Looks like the grass was wet this morning," I said, all concern and innocence. The neighbors started filtering out phones, recording some whispering, a few not even trying to hide their grins. Mr. Henderson leaned on his fence, twinkle in his eye. Mrs. Gable gasped, hand to her mouth. Even Fifi looked mortified. Brenda called the tow company. First one wouldn't touch it. Second had to bring out the heavy equipment, charged her an arm and a leg just to get the thing out. Left my lawn looking like a battlefield. Her insurance company was less than sympathetic. The cop she called just shrugged after I showed him my logs and security cam footage of my innocent morning watering. No charges, not even a warning. In fact, the officer politely suggested she try parking on the street, like a normal person. But here's the twist, Brenda. For all her bluster, couldn't rally the neighborhood. See, after years of her tickets and fines and that holier-than-thou attitude, people were ready for her to get knocked down a peg. I put together a neat little packet with all the evidence photos, emails, the works, and handed it out before the next HOA meeting. Mr. Henderson gave a speech about respect and boundaries. Residents started venting their own stories. Suddenly, the Queen of Oakwood Creek was on the defensive. Someone even called for a vote of no confidence. She finished her term with barely a whimper, sold the Land Cruiser, and now drives a little sedan, never parks within 20 feet of my place. She barely looks up if we pass on the sidewalk. I always thought justice was something dramatic, maybe a courtroom speech, maybe a thunderclap from above. Turns out sometimes it's just a little morning dew, a well-timed cup of coffee, and a stubborn engineer who won't be pushed around. My lawn's better than ever now, helped by a small donation to the HOA Landscaping Fund, courtesy of Mr. Henderson's quiet diplomacy. I even built a little rock wall just for good measure, and Oakwood Creek. It's lighter somehow. People say, "Hey kids, play." No one's worried about some surprise violation showing up in their mailbox. As for Brenda, rumor is she avoids water features altogether. Can't say I blame her. So what do you think? Was I too petty? Or did Brenda get what she deserved? Ever had to fight back against a neighborhood tyrant? Drop a comment and let's hear your take on what justice really looks like in the suburbs. Maybe next time we'll talk about the HOA barbecue that nearly ended in a fire truck visit, but that's a story for another day.